Hey everybody, it's Heather. So I just wanted to give you guys an update video about some job interview tips and tricks that's been requested of me. I have an old video, I think it's still up on my channel from when I first graduated from the Albion program. So if you want to check that out, I'll link that down below. But this is going to be a much more updated video about my experience, what I feel like are good tips and tricks for job hunts from a new grad and experienced nurses. Perception. So let's just go ahead and get started, okay? All right, guys. So first off, I want to give a little bit of an update. So I'm actually going to be moving very soon. I'm going to be moving out of the Austin area, and so I had to go on the job hunt myself, very recently. So these, tips that I'm giving you are actually really relevant to me, and they're actually very recent, experiences for me. I'm actually going to be working at a cardiac hospital in the Dallas area, and I'm going to be working on a cardiac unit. And so I'll do kind of an update about that in a different video, but just wanted to give you guys a little heads up about that. So these, these tips and everything are fairly recent in my experience. So one of the first things that you want to do is when you're on the job hunt, especially as a new grad, is you want to figure out what you want to do nursing wise. What is your interest? What is your goal in your nursing career? So as a new graduate, a lot of times you kind of have to take what's open, but I still think that you should be able to at least try to achieve your initial nursing goals. If you want to be an ICU nurse, or if you want to be a pediatric nurse, or whatever it is you want to do, set your goals there. Don't not apply for it because you think that you don't have a chance getting there. You need to figure out what you want to do. After that, whenever you figured out what you want to do is you need to go to whatever type of facility that is. I feel like for most people, it's probably going to be the hospital setting. So you need to go to whatever hospitals are in your area, and you need to go to their website, and you need to see what kind of hospital it is, what kind of job positions they have, what kind of patient populations they take care of, and you need to figure out if this is a place that's going to be a good fit for you. Looking at their about us page, look at their mission and values and everything, and see if that's something that aligns with you. I've found that I really kind of prefer to work for nonprofit hospital systems, just because I feel like I agree with their mission and values a little bit more than I would a for-profit. And I've done clinical experiences at both types of hospital systems, and I just feel like I mesh well a little bit better with the types of people that choose to work at a nonprofit. But that's totally my personal opinion. And when you're a new grad, I don't think you should limit yourself to only nonprofit places when you're just trying to get that initial experience. But another reason to look up all these things when you're applying for a job is that they're going to ask you about it in the interview. They're going to ask you, why did you choose this hospital? And they're going to want to hear you say that you did your research on this facility, and you know what their mission is, you know what their values are, you know what their goals are, and you know about the facility that you're going to be working for. So it's very important that you do that. The second thing that I would say to do after that is to go on their job page and see what types of jobs they have available. Do they even hire new grads at that hospital? Do they have a new grad residency or internship program? And this is something to kind of back up a little bit, is I would recommend that if you're a new grad, I would get started on this your very last semester, like the beginning of your last semester, is I would really get working, on it, figure out what you want to do, figure out where you'd want to work, and figure out what places have these types of internships. Because a lot of places, if they have an internship or residency program, you have to apply way in advance. You have to go to open houses, and it's a really long process, and you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So find out what opportunities are available there, if they have career fairs or what have you, and get in on the ground floor of those things, because those are going to help you immensely. I got accepted to a new grad residency when I graduated from my RN program, but I had to put some hustle in. I had to go to open houses. I had to continually make contacts with managers, email them once a week, and I had to really work for the position. But I'm so glad that I did, because I got a lot of support and a lot of very, very good training that a lot of new graduates don't get. So it's very important that you put the effort and you put the work in when you're applying for these types of positions. So after that, after you've figured out what jobs are available there, you've got to work on your resume. And resumes are difficult because resumes are very subjective. They're very they're very biased towards the person that's making them, the person that's looking at them. What one person might think is a great resume, another person might not think is a great resume. So if you have any kind of resume, helpers at your school or anything like that, it's probably a good idea to utilize them. But I think the most important things on a resume is to be thorough yet concise. And I think it's backtracked a little bit. It used to be, only have a 1-page resume, and I think now they say maybe 2 pages is okay. But I still feel like if you can fit your experience on a 1-page resume, it really helps your cause, because especially recruiters and everybody, they're going through so many stacks of resumes. If they see like a 5-page resume, I guarantee they're only going to look at that first page, and they're not going to look at anything else of your experience that's on there. So try to be concise, try to put as much as you can, but don't be, over the top, long-winded, with things like that. Be brief, be concise, say exactly what your duties were. I always recommend, obviously putting your education, your job experience on there. If you don't have anything relevant to nursing, you can put your clinical experiences on there. If you're a new grad, obviously if you've been a tech or a CA, definitely put that on there. I've also heard recently of managers really liking when you do have customer service experience. So if you've waited tables or worked in a retail environment where you've had to take care of customers and their needs, I think that's relevant. You can put that on there. It shows that you know how to deal with the public, you know how to, provide good customer service, and that's really important. Also put any types of certifications that you've gotten. Obviously you probably have like your BLS or your CPR if you've, gone an extra step. Sorry, my washing machine is going crazy back there. But if you've gotten the extra step to getting like ACLS or PALS or anything like that, you can put that on there. If you got any kind of awards, if you graduated like summa cum laude, or you had a high GPA or something like that, put that on there. My job that I most recently got, I'm actually doing another internship because they either hire new grads or they take experienced nurses who've never done that specialty before into their internship. And they actually asked for my GPA when I applied for the job. My first residency didn't do that. So if you have a good high GPA, go ahead and put that on your resume. So, after you fill out your resume, obviously you have to actually apply for the jobs. Apply for as many as you can. Apply for everyone under the sun that you think you're, qualified for. If you know somebody in that hospital facility, try and see if they'll give you their contact information and put them down as, I don't think it's necessarily a reference, but just the person that that can sometimes get your foot in the door a little bit faster. But the thing is really to do after that, after you've applied, is to follow up with them. Try to figure out who the recruiter is. Try to figure out who the manager is. You can even just call up to the hospital and ask to speak to HR or ask to speak to the manager on the floor, and let them know how interested you are in the job. Don't just sit idly by and hope that they call you. You have to take a proactive effort into getting jobs these days. You can't just sit there and wait for them to call you. You need to follow up either with a phone call or by email, or maybe even in person. You need to show them that you're motivated. That's going to help you stand out from the crowd, and that's going to help you get at least that interview, if not the job altogether. So after that, say, you've applied and you finally got that interview. So one of the most important things is, how you prepare and how you present yourself. So I would definitely recommend by looking up common interview questions for nursing interviews on Google. You can Google them, you can look them up on YouTube. You will find an abundance, almost an overwhelming amount of information, but you'll need to Google behavioral interview questions, because that's what I had for my new grad residency, and that's what I have for my experienced nurse internship. I had behavioral interview questions. And so when you're answering these questions, you need to think of how you respond, how your general philosophy is, and then you need to back up what you're saying with an example of how you actually handled it. So for instance, they're most likely going to ask you, in maybe not in the exact same words, but in some way they're going to ask you, how do you handle conflict? So then you need to answer by saying, well, I usually like to do this when I'm dealing with people. For example, I recently had an issue with an angry family member or an angry doctor or an angry nurse or CA or whoever. And so you need to tie those in together and give them an example of who you are and how you handle those things. And I feel like those are the best ways to answer those questions, and that's how I've answered them. And I've been fortunate enough to get both of the jobs that I've interviewed for. So I would also recommend practicing with somebody so you can figure out what you're going to say. There's a couple of interview questions like conflict that I'm pretty much guarantee they're going to ask you. I also got questions of what my weaknesses are or a time I made a mistake. So you need to think about those so you can give a good, adequate, honest answer. And to speak a little bit about the weaknesses part, they don't want to hear a weakness of I'm too much of a perfectionist. They want to hear a legitimate weakness, but when you answer that weakness question, you need to back it up by saying, this is how I'm trying to work on it. But they want to know that you have a weakness, because everybody does. And they want to know that you have that weakness, but you're also looking to improve upon yourself. So that's something really important to think about. But back to what I was trying to say, was you need to either set up your webcam or a camera or something like that and practice your answers. Write down like examples of situations that you've been in where you've had good conflict, or you advocated for a patient, or bad conflict, advocated for a patient, a weakness, a mistake, whatever. And you need to either practice them with somebody face to face, or you need to practice them on your alone time with your webcam or in a mirror. I prefer kind of like the webcam thing. I actually did that myself, because then I could replay my answers back and I could see either I answered that question poorly, or I was rambling, or I didn't answer it like it sounded in my head. I think that's really important and will help your nerves for the interview. I did that for several weeks before my interview because I really, really wanted this job. And they asked me a few curveball questions in my interview that I wasn't really prepared for. I hadn't seen any examples of those online. And then some of the questions they did ask me, I kind of surprised myself and gave different answers than I originally prepared. But at least I was mentally already on that track, and I knew what they were. I kind of knew what to expect, and I wasn't just completely taken off guard by every single question they asked me. So those are something that's really important. And, again, regarding the interview, is you need to dress professionally. We've had some people at my current facility come in to interview because we've had a lot of staff, changing positions and stuff lately. And I have seen people come in honestly the strangest things. I saw somebody come in wearing like khaki jeans, with like their hair in like kind of a slobby ponytail, like not really interview appropriate. It was very casual, like something you'd wear to like a lunch with a family. You need to come dressed for success. You need to wear a business professional outfit. You need, if you're a female, you need to wear some kind of like pantsuit with like a jacket, or a skirt with a jacket. I wore a like black pencil type skirt with like a white blouse and kind of a dark grayish black blazer over it, and I had my makeup very simply done. I had my hair pulled back in a very nice way, and I wore a very simple set of earrings to look like, I tried, but I wasn't going to go over the top with what I was wearing and how I was looking. Gentlemen, I would recommend, not necessarily like a tux, but I would definitely recommend wearing a suit or a very nice pair of slacks with a nice shirt and a tie. Another thing is, being prepared for the interview, in bringing extra copies of your resume. I actually put together a little portfolio where I had several copies of my resume. I had my CPR card, I had a copy of my nursing license, and then I'd also printed off things where I had been recognized. My manager sends out emails where people have been recognized for things. I printed out the emails where I had been recognized by my hospital, my coworkers, and then just to kind of make yourself stand out a little bit. So there's lots of little ways that you can do that. Don't bring, like a 15-page binder, with every test that you got an A on or anything like that. But if you have anything like that, maybe a patient wrote a sweet note about you, or, a coworker wrote something really sweet about you. You have a couple things like that. Bring that so they can show, you can see what type of person you are and how you stand out from the rest of the crowd. So and then after the interview, it's extremely important. You want to try your best to remember everybody's names that you spoke to. A lot of times in nursing interviews, you're going to be interviewed by more than one person. There were 3 people in my new grad residency interview, and then my most recent interview, I had also 3 people in there, and then I had a kind of informal panel interview after the fact with 3 staff nurses. So it's really important to get everybody's names, because after you finish with your interview, either that evening or the next day within about 24 hours, you want to either do a handwritten note or an email to the manager specifically, but address everybody in that interview and let them know how much you appreciate them interviewing you, thank them for their time. And then you want to kind of hit on some high points of the interview to again reiterate how much you want the position, why you're qualified for the position, and why they should hire you. It shouldn't be a really long thing. It should be maybe a couple paragraphs, something they can skim through, read really easily, and not take up too much of their day. And if you can, if there's something specific y'all talked about or something funny happened, you can kind of hit on that so they can remember who you are. I kind of recommend doing both, a really quick email one because they can get that immediately, and then you can also do a really short, simple handwritten note. And that's what I personally did. I wrote an email 24 hours after the interview, and then I also did a little snail mail card where it was very brief on that. I didn't write very much in that card at all. I just, again, said thank you for your time. I would, very much like to be considered for the position. Thank you, Heather. So that's something that's extremely, extremely important. And I think a lot of people don't do, but it helps set you from the crowd. And then after that, sometimes you'll hear back right away. Sometimes it's a little bit of a waiting process. I would give it about a week. If you haven't heard from them, I would call or email the manager and see if they can give you any kind of updates, reiterate how interested you are in the position, and see what kind of response you get. They might be telling you that they're still making decisions, or they might let you know that you weren't chosen, but you need to continue to follow up and let them know that you're interested in the position. If they don't hear from you for 3 weeks and they're really having trouble deciding, they're just going to maybe assume that you're not interested, but they hear from candidate B and they've emailed them twice in the past 3 weeks and let them know how much they want the job. They're going to be more likely to go with that candidate because they're showing an interest rather than not hearing from you ever again. So following up is very, very important. I think those are really the main basis of my tips, guys. Let me know if you have any specific questions and I can answer them in the comments below. I'll kind of put some links in the little, info bar down below, things that were helpful to me. That's about all I have for you right now, guys. I hope to make another video soon where I talk more about my cardiac position. I started at the beginning of October, so I won't really, have anything to update you guys on yet, but that'll be something in the works. But if you have any specific videos you'd like me to make, I'm going to be kind of busy with moving for a while, but I'll do my best to address those. But anyways, guys, have a great day. Bye.